Alright, so it's been a minute since I've made a video, but I hope this video will be edifying for other sisters who possibly are having similar struggles or things like that, because I'm not gonna lie, I don't that's the thing, like it's like I don't know, that I'm still trying to figure out the best way to put this. Like it's like, okay, when you become a believer, obviously the sanctification process here, it's like something you're going to probably be going through pretty much your entire life, because it's the whole battle between the flesh and spirit, kind of like what Paul talks about in Galatians 5. And the last week or so, it's been kind of like that for me, with like battling my flesh versus like the spirit, right? And an example is like I had like some random moment of jealousy, and I remember I was like, damn, like why am I feeling like this? Like, and I was getting upset with myself because obviously it's like I don't want to feel jealous towards like, you know, any brothers, sisters, or things like that, or like think evil or do, like, you have, the thing is, when you become a believer, you also have a different heart posture too, like, because the more he convicts you, the more you're gonna start being obedient to his well, the more you should be, that's the thing, like the more you should be and are to be, like listening to that spirit of conviction, especially when you become a believer, because then you can get sanctified, you can get pruned, and the more he'll take from you, the more like sin leaven he'll take from you, and the more he'll help increase you in different ways, like in knowledge and understanding and the way how to walk, because then you're going to mature in the faith and things like that. And so when I have those moments where, like what I was just saying, like a random moment of jealousy sort of thing, when it wasn't even like warranted, and there's no warrant for jealousy anyways, unless it's like, I don't know, even then it's like hard to think of like a good scenario where it's like it's fine, because it's really not, like we're not supposed to be jealous and things like that. I remember I felt terrible. I confessed to my sister and things like that. I remember I wanted to cry because I feel so bad, like, because it's like you don't want to do those things, but it's also like you have to think about also, that's the thing, like when you have these struggles, like say if you're struggling with lust or like other things, like whatever it may be, it's like you have to think about, okay, why am I struggling with this? I know for me personally, I can answer, I mean, there's definitely other factors that can go into, I'm not saying this is the only reason, but I will say one of the biggest reasons for me when I start struggling with this stuff is when I'm not reading or praying as much. Maybe I'm doing it still. I'm still doing it every day. I'm still reading, praying every day, but maybe my heart's just not as much in it. You know what I mean? Or maybe I'm not reading as long or listening to the you know what I mean? Like focusing your mind on the things above as much. Like I don't feel like sometimes I'm doing that as much. Or like also if like say I'm still doing the royal law, but I'm not, I guess, doing it as much or something, you know, like things like that. This is what can cause you to start having those thoughts and feelings, and basically the video is to help you, like whatever sister may be struggling with this, to overcome it, because you know the answer is right in his word, you just have to read it. And I was just I feel like I'm going all over the place, but it's right in Galatians 5 where basically, so Paul, he's like, I'm trying to think where I should start, where it's like verse 13, where he's like, for you, brethren, have been called to liberty, only do not use that liberty as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love serve one another. For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, beware lest you be consumed by one another. Okay, so let's pause. So it's like, how do you love? How do you serve people? How do you give up your life to be a servant? Because Yeshua says this in John 15:12-17, to basically lay down your life for the brethren. And then in 1 John 3, I was reading that as well. I can't remember how it's phrased, but even there it kind of repeats basically what John 15 says about laying down your life. You know, it's like, how do you do that for the brethren? It's by doing the royal law, by giving up your life to be a servant. So when, instead of thinking about your thoughts, your feelings, your desires on what to do, instead you're going to give up your life to go warn your neighbors, whether they hear or forbear. Because the whole point isn't like, oh, I'm doing it just so like to just do it, or I'm doing it to like you know, like make it like, you know, like they have to hear, otherwise I'm just not gonna keep going, you know what I mean? Because that could happen too, where it's like after some point, like say people are doing the royal law, but if they come across too many people who are just not hearing, it can cause, and it's just, it can be discouraging, I'm not gonna lie, because even I can get discouraged. And that's why there's some days where I might, like, I'll still be doing it, but just like maybe take a step back, because sometimes it's really hard talking to people when they're not listening and things like that, because you just want people to hear, like when you have that heart posture for people to hear, but you can't stop, that's the whole point. And so I'm trying to think, I kind of forgot what I was saying. Okay, I remember now. But basically, you don't want to be doing it, like, you don't want to do it for vain reasons. You don't want to do it like with the ego to puff yourself up. And I'm not gonna lie, that's something I need to check my heart on. And we all should be checking our hearts on it when we're doing it, to make sure we're actually doing it with a genuine love. And if I feel like I'm not, I do pray more about it. I'm like, yeah, help me, because I want to have, like, you know, I ask him, that's the thing, ask him to have a burden for souls. And if you have that genuine heart posture where you want a burden for souls and you want to do his will, he will answer it, like answer your prayer, and he will help you to have a burden for his, like, you know, burden for souls, a love for his people. He can do it. You just have to ask. And you obviously have to ask in faith, and you can't ask with the wrong motives, like, so then you could be like, oh, look at me, I'm doing the royal law sort of thing. Like, so you can't do it like that. You also, again, you also can't just be like, I'm gonna stop if people, you know, basically if they don't listen, because the scriptures basically show a lot of people aren't gonna be listening right now, besides the servants who actually heed the calling and pick up their staff of authority that Yeshua gives all of us, and starts walking as he walked, right? So anyway, so the whole point of this, when Paul's talk about with loving your neighbor as yourself, it's Leviticus 19:15 through to 18. So if you do these things, so if you start, because that's the thing, you have to be obedient, right? So start keeping the commandments. So John 15, you're going to start keeping the commandments, abide in their love, abide in their, like, his word, you know, and things like that. And the more you start doing that, he's going to prune you. But also it talks about loving your neighbor as yourself, I'm pretty sure. And pretty sure, yeah, in that chapter it talks about, and that's basically also how you get pruned and sanctified as well. Because if you focus your mind right on the things above, doing his will, walking in his ways, you're not going to gratify the desires of the flesh. And basically that's what Paul's talking about here, because when you keep reading, I say, then walk in the spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh, and these are contrary to one another. So you do not do the things that you wish. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. So, okay, pause again. So how do you walk in the Spirit? You're not going to be doing your own thing, right? You're going to be keeping the commandments and then teaching others to do so, right? That's essentially how you walk in the Spirit. And the more you do this, the more you're going to be pruned, and the less you're going to want to do, you know, what the old nature wants, what the old man wants, sort of thing, because you're going to be putting to death, like, essentially your desires to walk in his. So I hope that makes sense. And then also, and then again, so like there's gonna be some days obviously where it's like, as Yeshua said, like the flesh is weak but the spirit is willing. So our flesh is weak, so sometimes you might be more susceptible if you're not like abiding in the word, doing the stuff the scriptures say. Like if you're not doing those things, it's gonna be easier for the flesh to kind of have its way, where it kind of wants to take control. But that's why you have to really it's like you kind of have to be disciplined essentially with the like whole loving God and loving your neighbor, and ask him for like to help you with the discipline. And that's something even I have to ask him for, because I know I'm a person who could get easily distracted and like lose focus and like things like that. And so because obviously you don't want to be like that, you have to pray about it, you have to ask him to help you these things, because obviously it's not by our own strength that we're able to walk in the spirit. Obviously it's through him and his spirit is one able to do so. You just have to do it. You have to rely on him to do it, and he will help you do it. So then that way you could put to death the flesh. And then also, when he's saying you are not under the law, he doesn't mean you're not under the 10 commandments. You've been set free from that so you can live the best life, do whatever you want sort of thing, you know, saved by grace, but don't even know what that really means, because it really means by saved by his conviction if you obey, saved by grace through faith, by grace conviction through faith obedience is one saved if they're actually listening to his conviction, the divine influence on the heart that leads us to repent and actually be able to obey, keep the commandments, and then teach others to do so. So he's not saying that here when he's saying you are not under law. He doesn't mean that. He means you are not under sacrificial law. You're not under stoning, oblations, and things like that. You're under the spirit of grace, which is conviction. You're under that. So you're under the 10 Commandments, but you're not under what Yeshua died to set us free from, essentially. And because you're loving God, loving your neighbor, you are able to have, like, it's like you have faith about, like, I don't know the best way to put it, because I feel like I was just listening to, like, Meg's video, like her most recent one she put on YouTube, and it was really good. Maybe I'll link that, because she was kind of talking about it, where it's like basically it's like when you have that faith, you're not gonna worry about like the circumcision, the seats, and all these other, like the outward works, because love is, as Paul said, for all the laws fulfilled in one word, even in this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. So if you're loving God and loving your neighbor according to scripture, everything else, like, I don't know the best way to put it. It's obviously not fulfilled in the sense, oh, I live my best life, right? Again, no. It's like, I just can't explain. Like, I know what I'm trying to say. I hope other people will pick up what I'm laying down with that. It's sorry. I don't know why I feel nervous right now making the video. But anyways, I guess, I don't know. And then basically he goes on to, in this chapter, to explain, what the works of the flesh are, and then what the works of this, like, not the works, but the fruit of the spirit. Like, there's a difference between the two. And even then, there's people who don't, like, they don't understand what the, like, this fruits of the spirit are. And I don't even know how to explain it fully. Like, I can hear it and understand it, but I don't want to teach something I don't fully know. So I'll have to, like, find like a video like Meg or someone did and leave it below. And also something that also helped me before was, it's been a minute, but it was a while back, I listened to Matthew UK's video on Isaiah 58, and basically it was about fast, worthy is God, and basically it was kind of like that, what I'm like kind of what I'm saying right now, where it's like when you're fasting from the flesh, walking, that's what's acceptable to him. And again, it's not that you can't do this literal fast, because there is something to literally fasting as well when you're genuinely doing it in faith, and like the praying and all that. I don't know exactly how it works, I've done it before, but like there is something to the literal fasting. But the ultimate fast that he wants you to do is the fasting from the flesh, from your desires, and again, to turn and walk in his desires and teach his people, because that's the whole point. He didn't wake us up so we could live our best life and do whatever we want. He woke us up so that we could wake up his people, possibly if they have ears to hear, and so then they can learn his truth and then be set free, and then they can go set other people free. It's supposed to be like, kind of like a domino effect. But anyways, I hope I don't know, I hope this all makes sense about, basically, it's just like, so it's like if you're someone, again, if you're struggling with certain things like lust, jealousy, covetousness, whatever it is, I'm telling you, the more you start just focusing on what he wants, the more he will prune you, the more he will sanctify you, the more like he'll give you that increase. Because I want to make it clear, like, since following him, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a process. The sanctification process has been a process, but he set me free from so much, and even now still is sanctifying me, setting me free. It's not like I've become, and that's the thing, like, people think, like, when you're telling them to keep the commandments and things like that, like, oh, so you're just perfect now and things like that. It's like, no, it's not this literal perfect. You just get matured in the faith, in your walk, where it's like you're not living the same life you once lived, so you're not living in willful sin anymore. That's the thing, is like the more you obey, the more he's going to sanctify you, so the less inclined you'll be to want to do the things that you used to do that were wrong, that were sinful. Like, for example, if it's like porn or something, right, the more you start listening to that conviction and stop watching it, and just like, you're like, okay, I'm done, even though it's like hard, even though it's like I'm used to it, sort of thing. It's like the more you just keep listening to his conviction, the more he'll keep you from sin, from whether it's willful, unintentional. Like, you just have to listen. You know what I mean? You just have to listen to his conviction when he's convicting you. But anyways, I feel like I went on a really long rant, but I hope this helps someone at least.